It's been a decade since I've been in retail, and I can't tell you how great it is to not be there anymore. I had jobs before that, but my first job as an adult was retail. And just in case I signed something when I worked there, I won't use the exact names of the stores, but one was one of those stores with dollar in the name where everything is not a dollar, and I'm not sure dollar stores even exist anymore unless it's not like a chain thing and is a mom and pop thing. The other retail store I worked was one of the big pet stores. So I worked at dollar store for 3 years and pet store for 1. And if I could give you any advice, I'd say work there while you find a different job. Do not stay there. They do not care about you. There are better jobs. It's something I wish I could have explained to myself back then. It keeps you trapped there, right? Because on one hand, I'm working, right? So I'm bringing in money, but on the other hand, it's such a low amount of money, it's never enough for me to survive on, so then I gotta keep working. It keeps you trapped in poverty. Now, keep in mind, this information is a decade old, so some things probably have changed since I was working. Like, I know there's self-checkouts now. That wasn't going on while I was there. But let's start off with some day-to-day things. So at dollar store, you are a cashier and a stocker. What that means is you'll be jumping back and forth between the register and stocking the shelves. Often you will be working by yourself or sometimes with one other person, which is usually not enough. If you are working by yourself, you can kiss your breaks goodbye and hope you never have to use a bathroom. Plus, since it's a public bathroom, customers will fuck it up. So you never know if you're gonna get in there and find a bunch of merchandise clogging the toilet because some thief tried to flush the boxes down and just stole the items. And the lines at the register, they can fill up fast. At least where I was at, they fill up real fast. Customers will say things like, "Hey, there's a line, can you bring out another cashier?" But what other cashier? There is no other, and I can only go as fast as I can. Way too often I hear a dumbass customer say, "Hello, does anyone work here?" And that's super annoying. No shit, someone works here. I get it, though. When you don't have enough people, it can be hard to find someone. Now, it is actually designed this way. Both dollar store and pet store not only pay poorly, but they also have store hours cut back so hard that there is never such a thing as fully staffed, because you can't get there. Sure, you could reach the amount of hours that they have given you, but that is not enough manpower to do what needs to be done, and it seems to just keep getting cut more and more. Even if you have ever uncovering the payable hours that you are given, it is never enough to do what's required. And over my time there, the amount of work kept increasing and the manpower to do the work kept decreasing. And then they would raise the standards on you and tell you, you need to do this because this is the standard. And these standards are kept getting more and more close to not doable. Also, because they pay like crap, you have a lot of turnover. They hire and fire a lot. In my 3 years, I had 10 different store managers and 3 different district managers. That was over at dollar store. And at pet store, I had 2 different store managers and 2 different district managers. And that was within 1 year. And they also rarely hire from within. All the time, it's them bringing some idiot who doesn't know the business or the store who starts telling you all the changes that are going to be made. And I'm not against change, but these people making the changes don't know what's going on, and the further up the ladder you get, the less they seem to know about what is even happening in their own fucking company. I'd talk to district managers and be so angry about how little they knew about what they were talking about. And my god, the regional managers are even dumber. It's wild. How does someone so useless make so much more than the people doing the actual work? It's gross and I hate it. These are some wildly out of touch motherfuckers, and it really makes me dislike them a lot. And if they're that worthless, imagine how bad the owners of the fucking company are. It's pretty gross how much they make while continuing to cut the hours of employees and tell them that they need to do more within that time. Like, damn, I guess if I actually wanted the big money, I should get a real job, like answering video calls from my yacht. If you work retail, forget about sick days, forget about time off. They are gonna say, well, did you find someone to cover your shift? Yeah, right. There's not a lot of people to ask who aren't already there, and I'm supposed to call the ones who aren't and ask if they want to go to hell for me, so I don't have to because I'm sick and I'm afraid I'm about to shit myself? But no, you gotta go in anyway, even though you're like, well, I don't feel good and I'm gonna shit myself. Because if you don't, they're gonna start cutting your hours and giving it to someone else. Call in sick, they say. If you're sick, call in sick. We don't want you here if you're sick. That is a lie. They hate it when you call in sick. The perfect employee never gets sick or has to use the bathroom. Here's another thing. If you stop to take a breather, bad. But if you go on a smoke break, oh, that's fine. For some reason, if you smoke, people are okay with you taking more breaks, which is dumb. I gotta slowly kill myself at this job in order to get more breaks? That's some bullshit. Both the world of cashiering and store stocking is unrewarding. In Greek mythology, Sisyphus had to roll a builder up a hill all day only for it to roll back down when he got close to the top. That's what it's like working retail. Your work is so hard getting the back room cleared and the product on the shelf, knowing next week it'll be just as bad. And rarely is there an end. Stores are constantly getting more product than we have room for. Pet store was extra bad at this, and we'd receive multiple pallets of a brand of dog food, but we could only put out a couple bags on the shelf, and then we just had a lot of extra. With the work never feeling done and you being treated poorly often, coming to work did not leave you feeling rewarded with a good, productive day's work. If anything, by putting time limits on stocking, makes you resent and actively avoid customers because you don't want to help them and you can get in trouble for not going fast enough. Some hours I spend 5 minutes with a customer, other hours I spend 45 minutes. But the time limit on getting these rolltainers or totes or pallets, depending on which place I was working at, that doesn't change. The time limit is always the same time limit, and it doesn't really account for how much time you have to spend with customers or other various mishaps that happen. And when a district manager comes in, it feels like they actively hate you, as if it's your fault for not meeting their unreasonable standards. One district manager decided to show me just how easy it was to finish in the time limit. He directed all the customers to me. He didn't have to work the register and stocking at once like I did, and he still didn't make the time. He of course didn't admit the system was flawed and instead claimed he did make it in time. What a fucking loser. Another time at a pet store, a district manager was bringing in a whole team to show us how fast stocking could go, which is stupid because obviously his 5 people were going to stock faster than our 2 people. He wasn't proving anything to me other than what I already knew, that more manpower means unloading faster. No fucking shit, man. But the truck was late, like super late. Like at the end of my shift late, and he threw everyone a pizza party and asked me to stay late to work the truck. And I told him no. And then the store manager, who we will call Tim, because Tim is his real name, I said, fuck you, Tim, because Tim was like, I need you to stay and get this unloaded. And I said, and then the district manager and his team, who are so good at unloading, can do it. Cause I'm off the clock. I didn't get pizza. I don't exist to be belittled by him, only for him to leave when the real work shows up. Yeah, I got written up. Said I wasn't being a team player, by which they meant sacrificing my freedom for minimum wage. I don't regret that at all. Proud of myself for standing up for myself. Unfortunately, that did cost me, but this is life. Once they hired another stalker, I saw my hours getting drastically cut because I wouldn't kiss the ass to the managers. It wasn't even like a lazy thing, like I was busting my ass. I was leaving the store gross and covered in sweat every goddamn day. Honestly, if I could go back, I never would have worked so hard. My back ain't quite the same since that job, and I was getting treated poorly for minimum wage. Actually, I think I was making just slightly more than that at Pet Store. At Pet Store, I was making like 50 cents more than minimum wage. Also, customers seem to think you get all sorts of training that you do not. For example, people were always asking me about the dog food and which was better. I really know as much as they do. That isn't a thing they train you on. 9 times out of 10, I'm just reading the back of the bag, same as you. Same with dollar dollar store. When you ask me which is healthier, Cocoa Puffs or Lucky Charms, best I can do is read the back of the box, same as you. A lot of pet stores training was just the history and founding of the company, as well as kissing the ass of the founders. But it turns out customers weren't coming up to me and asking me the history of the store. No, they were asking me, how come Blue Buffalo is more expensive than Purina Pro? And I'm like, well, it could be the ingredients, it could be the quality, or at least the perception of a higher quality, could be brand name, who really knows? And then they're like, why is Blue Buffalo so expensive? Other pet store has it cheaper, can't you just change the price? And then I'm like, what kind of power do you think I have? I know I can't change the price. I don't control the prices. You think that they would let us control the prices? I have no power. None, even a little. I stock bags that cost more than my salary in 3 to 4 hours of work. Management requires you to ask questions at the register. Like, would you like to use your reward card? Would you like to sign up for this and this and this and this? And you can just say no thank you. There's no reason to be angry at someone doing their job. They're required to do that. I don't like doing that. Some fast food places like Taco Bell force their employees to ask for surveys or they could lose their job. That's some nutty stuff. And when we ask for your ID for cigarettes or alcohol, don't fucking give me the, are you kidding? I'm old enough to be your insert family member. Fuck you! First off, you're not carrying your ID, so fuck you. Why aren't you doing that? Second off, I need to see it because one, we have rules coming from higher than the cashier, higher than me. You think I made up this rule? And two, we get stings. We had one dumbass who we'll call Dorina because that was her real name, and she kept getting busted for not checking IDs. Those fines are hefty. And I don't want to risk my job because you didn't bring your ID. Fuck you. I don't know why your dumbass thinks I can make the rules. Be a Karen to the people above me. If you got a problem with it, you being a Karen to me doesn't change anything. When I'm at the very bottom, what do you think that's gonna do? Dollar store pays you a wage you can't live on and then has the nerve to tell you a majority of the theft is from employees. I don't remember the exact number, but it was high. And I don't believe it. Not even a little bit. I'm sure some employees steal. I'm definitely not arguing that it's not a percentage, but this was like 75 or 80% or something ridiculous. I've been in plenty of stores, and I would travel to different ones with the district manager to help him out, and I can tell you, not only at mine, but every store I went to, the employees were not the theft problem. The customers by far were, specifically teens and surprisingly old ladies with big purses. On top of that, I promise you, money theft and waste is coming from people much higher up in the company than I was. Now, of course, I don't know for sure on this statistic. I'd have to actually do research, but I would bet it's a lot easier to convince people to not raise the employee wages if you can point to a statistic that says these employees steal a lot. How did you even get that statistic? How did you come to that conclusion? And you know what? For the sake of whatever, let's say hypothetically it's true. Do you think there might be some reason someone in poverty working for you with no benefits, no growth opportunities, low wages might want to steal from you? Straight up, with how you pay them, you are kind of stealing from them. Their time, their life, their sanity, and for what? So they can attempt to get by on what pittance you give them? Customers can also be terrible. They treat you so poorly for no reason, and if you ever feel dumb, work retail and you will quickly find out you're far more intelligent than the general public. And that's not a good thing. It hurts to know how stupid people are. One time I had to leave the register to talk to an old lady who ripped open a bag of maxi pads and was wiping her ass with them, and that's insane. Not just because she did that, but also because the toilet paper is very close by the maxi pads, so why the maxi pads? One time a lady put a trash bag on my car, just a full-ass garbage bag full of trash on my car in the parking lot. And I ran out and I said, what the hell are you doing? And she drove off, so I grabbed the fucking trash bag. I'm chasing her. I managed to snack her little fucking red handle hook on her car mirror thingy, so she had it now. And then I flipped her off and I went back to work, and when I left work, what was on my car? A bag of trash. What the hell? There is a dumpster, there is a trash can. This trash isn't even mine. Why are you putting it on my car? Also, you think customers put away carts? They don't. There are a spot for carts, but they just leave them out, and you aren't even allowed to slash their tires in retaliation. No, you have to bring the carts right back to the spot because they are too privileged to walk 10 extra steps. I hope you die. The world doesn't need you. Fuck you, you son of a bitch. Pet store is always understaffed. At one point, the person who takes care of the fish was on break, and this customer wanted fish. Growing up, I had worked a lot with fish, so I thought, how hard could it be to help her? So I went to Tim, and I said, hey, rather than make this customer wait half an hour, I can probably do it, or at least give it a try. So he gave me the go-ahead. That was stupid of me. Well, I did have my knowledge of fish. What I didn't have was the knowledge of pet store's equipment. So I got the feeder fish she wanted, I put them in a plastic container, I set the container on a shelf so I could grab a bag, and then the whole shelf fell. There was no sign indicating this was a broken shelf, and now I had water and feeder fish on the floor, so I began cleaning that up while being insulted by the customer and being told I was wasting her time. Even though I could have and should have let them wait a whole half hour for our person to be back. I got her new fish and made sure the next place I set them was safe, and then I ran into more issues. I needed to fill the bags with air, but I could not for the life of me find the air hose, and so the customer kept getting angrier and angrier while I was doing my damnedest to help her. And in the end, I did take care of it, but that was such a mess. I never offered to help over there again unless I'm properly trained on the equipment that Pet Store uses. Black Friday at Pet Store was wild too. It was very stressful, and Tim had all sorts of really stupid rules that were making things worse and breaking all kinds of fire codes. And when the customers came in, I couldn't really even move. It was so crowded, I was just kind of trapped in a corner for most of the day, just slowly clearing pallets if I saw any break in people that I could move through. Over at Dollar Store, we had this guy named Johnny and his sister. I don't know his sister's name, but I fucking hated them. I'm not sure why the store manager didn't ban them, but they would always come in and cause trouble. And the sister was paranoid that I was charging too much, so she always made me scan everything, cancel the whole order, and scan it again to make sure it's the right price. And unfortunately, I was not standing up for myself and telling her no, but honestly, retail punishes you for standing up for yourself, even politely. The customers complain to corporate, who in turn yell at you and give them a gift card, which incentivizes customers to become repeat offenders, always trying to find something to complain about for a gift card. Me and another worker even changed our name tags to Wayne and Garth. That way when customers came in and complained about us, they used the wrong names to tell on us. It was often the same ones too, because they knew they could get a gift card, and they didn't care if we got in trouble when they made up shit about us. They aren't the only ones trying to get money either. One time I was working and I heard this big crash. This guy was on the ground holding his back, and he claimed he slipped on a Christmas ornament and he fell, and he was going to sue, and he kept repeating, "Oh, why did you leave the shit on the ground? Oh, I'm gonna sue." But looking at the scene, I had a feeling it was bullshit. Things weren't adding up. The ornament wasn't in the right place for a slip to make sense, and it's a flimsy bitch. It's more likely he would have crushed it than slipped on it, and I know it wasn't on the floor. I had been bouncing up and down the aisle stalking, and when he started holding his knee in pain, I was like, how did you slip and hurt your knee and your back at once? I couldn't even muster up fake empathy. He kept repeating, "Oh, why did you leave that shit on the ground?" And I was like, stop wasting my time, get out of here. And his tune kind of changed when I started talking about getting police involved and checking the cameras, and he went from being in so much pain he was gonna sue to suddenly feeling a bit better and he's just gonna hobble out and file a report himself. Yeah, okie dokie then. I never heard from him again. Honestly pissed me off. I was less mad he was faking an injury and more mad he was trying to pin a fake injury on me. We also had this guy at the pet store start yelling at the groomers, and while I don't know what the fight was about, my time in retail has taught me usually the customer is wrong. She demanded he leave, and in return he kept making tongue noises at her, like those childish little which was a new one. I had been cussed out many times, but this man baby left words entirely and was throwing this tantrum in the store, and that's crazy. I also got wrote up at pet store too. In retail, they make you move shit around all the time. They say it's to keep things fresh, and the longer the customer is in the store, the more they will buy. But what it also does is it wastes our time and it makes the customer upset that they can't find things. I had this one lady come in looking for flea and tick medication, and she says, "Excuse me, where is your flea and tick medication?" And I said, "Oh, that's in aisle 8. I don't remember the exact aisle, this was a decade ago, I'm just saying aisle 8. And she's like, "No, it's not, it's in aisle 15. And I'm like, "Oh, okay. It used to be there, but we actually moved it." And she goes, "No, it's still in aisle 15, I'll show you." So she took me, who works at the store, to aisle 15, and then she got surprised when indeed it wasn't there. "Well, where is it?" she asked, and I was like, "Aisle 8, like I said, if you would follow me." So she follows me, I take her there, and wouldn't you know it? Wow, can you, what? It's there. It's where I put it. That's crazy. She's like, "Why didn't you just take me there in the first place?" And I was like, "Oh, I tried to, but you asked me and then didn't listen to what I said." And she's like, "Okay, you're out of line." So she storms off to my manager, Tim. She's like, "This young man is being rude and won't show me the flea and tick medication." So he immediately throws me under the bus and he's like, "I'm sorry, ma'am, I'll have a word with him. It's right this way." And then he took her to the same aisle I took her to, the exact same one, the exact same spot. And she was grateful and she thanked him and she said, "I've been coming here for years and you've always been here to help me out every time. But this young man needs to work on his attitude." And then my boss looked at me expecting me to apologize, and I looked at my boss like, why the fuck would I? And then the lady said, "My grandsons would never treat me that way." And I said, "Maybe your grandsons don't know you're a bitch." I got wrote up. I even pointed out to Tim that he hadn't even been here for a year. How has he been nice to her for years if he hasn't been here for a year? The lady is a liar and a bitch. Doesn't matter though, cause you don't call the customer a bitch, which yes I get, but in my defense, she was a bitch. Also, if you come in at closing time, you are forcing employees who have been there all day to stay late. Do not do that. Ever. And if it's like 5 minutes till, you can grab a few items, I guess, but don't load up a cart, you piece of shit. We had a bad customer tally at Dollar Store, and it was our way to not feel like shit. It became a game of who had the most, and suddenly the bad customers would become a point in this tally, which made the interactions feel better, because it would put you in this imaginary competition, and it would make the bad things feel good so that they weren't bad, if that makes sense. It just helped the day not feel as bad. At Pet Store, we got buses of these old folks, and I do mean buses. We got buses of old folks and special needs people, and they treat it like a trip to the zoo. I'm gonna be honest, it really makes you kind of dislike these people, because they're always bugging you, talking to you, and in your way for stocking items. That would be completely fine. It should be completely fine. They should be allowed to do that. The problem is, I'm getting in trouble for talking to you, for helping you out. So when I do something for any of these people, deep down I know I'm annoyed because I'm about to be in trouble no matter what. If I don't talk to these people, then I'm not being friendly and I'm not providing customer service. If I do be friendly and provide customer service, then I'm getting in trouble for not stocking shelves at that moment. And honestly, it's not their fault. They don't know. This is the culture of the job. It breeds these things because of the way they run things. Customers aren't the only ones who will make you angry. Your fellow coworkers will too. Sure, I've had great coworkers, but I've also had really bad ones, and you gotta figure out how to work with them. And that can be easier said than done depending on the person. Another thing to note is because of the high turnover Dollar Store has, they seem to hire anyone. So there have been cashiers who I had to train who did not know the value of change. Like quarters, dimes, nickels, penny, they didn't know how much each was worth. So they could do the math, so I had a little cheat sheet up there for them. And this isn't me insulting her, it's more of me pointing out our employees at Dollar Store weren't the most educated, skilled people. And I'll be honest, a lot of them, regardless of education, were pretentious idiots. I had a store manager who wouldn't even come in. It could go a week before I saw them. I had an assistant manager, Dorina, we already talked about her. She's constantly trying to short my pay hours and claim I didn't work those hours. I'm not even sure why she would do that. I would show her on the camera, I would show her on the schedule. She was always trying to pick fights. This wasn't just with me, this was with everyone. And she lost her store keys, so I had to give her my backup ones, which meant every day on my day off I'd have to go to work to pick up keys. And you think she did the same for me? No. One day I came to pick them up and she wasn't there, so I called and said, "Yo, where are the keys? I need them to open the store tomorrow." And she said she had them and that I'll have to drive down there to get them. And she was about an hour away, and I said, "No, you just bring them to work tomorrow morning, I guess, and I'll use them to open up the store." And she said, "No, I'm not coming in on my day off." And I said, "What the hell do you think I've been doing for you for weeks now? 'Cause you keep losing your keys. Stop starting fights. When and where can you bring the keys?" And she said, "I'm not bringing the keys, you can come get them." And I said, "Why are you such a bitch?" And then I hung up, and the keys were mine anyway. The keys were mine anyway. But I had to give them to her, 'cause the store manager said so. And I got rid up for calling her a bitch, which, yes, I shouldn't do. I get why it's wrong, but in my defense, she was a bitch. I used to travel to various dollar store locations to help them when needed. There was one store that only had 2 employees. It was an old guy who moved at the speed of none, and a woman with 1 arm who had to man the register at all times, because the old guy couldn't see or hear well. The back room was such a mess. It was awful, and what's worse is that the trucks never stopped coming, so I bust my ass that day. I'm clearing out so much just for the truck to come and fill it right back up to the brim that same day. And district managers don't really help with that stuff. She said she wasn't allowed to, but I know that's a lie because I had that one district manager try to show me up on how fast he could unload a rolltainer. So I know that's a lie. I'm currently a manager where I'm employed now. I do everything I have the people under me do. There is nothing I would have them do that I don't also do, because I believe that's how a boss should be. But with most district managers I've met, they are worthless. They just come in and they chew you out and offer no way to fix whatever the problems are that often their own management has created, and some of them purposely try to intimidate you. They get right up in your face and in your personal space and try to scare you, and it's pathetic. I can't imagine doing that to my guys. Sure, there's been times where I have to put my foot down and I go, "Hey, we don't do this, not cool," but I've never tried to scare my guys. I want to be approachable. I want to work on and actually fix issues I have the power to fix. It was so rare to get a competent store manager or district manager in my time with retail. We had a store manager named Tim. He was bragging about how he used to be a manager at Gander Mountain and fired everyone on Christmas. And he was like, "I want you to know that because I'm not afraid to fire any of you." Tim was insane. He was pretentious. He was militaristic. One time he wanted me to flip a shelf by moving the north side to the south side and the west side to the east side and vice versa. Rather than take hours to individually pull every item off and then put them back up, I rotated the shelf 180 degrees and was done in 10 minutes. But Tim didn't like that because weirdly this wasn't about being productive, it was about power. So he made me waste hours pulling each item off the shelf to put it back on. He was fucking weird. A lot of people quit because of him, including me. He also would come in on his days off and he would carry a gun on him and kind of try to intimidate you. And my God, did he want you to think he was badass. And I'm just here to work, man. I'm not here to fight with you. I'm not here to end up in jail. But Tim, he wanted to start shit. And Tim would always take the customer's side over anything. He specialized in throwing you under the bus if anything went wrong. He was so bad, I was becoming friends with an old guy whose only emotion was anger. He wasn't even smart enough to hide it, or wait till you were out of hearing distance before talking behind your back. All this old guy knew was anger, and he sucked to be around, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and any enemy of Tim is a friend of mine. Now, I know I wasn't perfect either. I was young, I was dumb, I'm not perfect now. What I'm saying is, I am blown away how bad some coworkers can be, how some people even get hired as bosses. Here's more advice for you. Retail does not ask underperforming employees to step it up. Instead, if you are a hardworking employee, retail has you pick up the other people's slack, and then for some reason gets mad at you if some days you just don't have the energy to pull the work of multiple people. So if you work retail, start off sucking more than you actually do, because the bosses are idiots. I don't get that at all. If my guys are meeting my standards, then I have nothing to say. It's the ones who aren't meeting my standards that are getting in trouble with me. Also, Employee of the Month technically means nothing, but slap that on your resume if you got it. Slap any achievement you have ever gotten, work or education-wise, on a resume. Really build yourself up. I think one of the most interesting memories I had from retail was this. One time we had a coworker who wanted to hide from her abusive boyfriend and his father, but she wasn't on the schedule, so I took my keys and I hid her in the office and I continued to work. Her boyfriend and dad came in looking for her. They walked about the store and couldn't find her, so they came and they talked to me, and I was like, "Oh, sorry, she's not here and hasn't come in, it's her day off." And they're like, "Well, please call me if you hear from her." I could tell they didn't believe me, and I figured they would wait in the parking lot for me for after work. So what I did was I had her go back and hide behind the dumpster while I locked up. And I went to my car, and like I said, they were in the parking lot waiting for me. I told them I still hadn't heard anything, and then I drove off. I went down the road a ways, making it look like I was going home. Then I turned down a road. I waited a minute or two, and I went up some back roads and arrived back at work, pulled up to the dumpsters in the back. She got out from hiding, got in the back of my car and laid down. And then driving back was a little worrying because I saw cops, and I knew her boyfriend's dad had been talking to the cops too. We drove by all of them, and I successfully smuggled her to my other coworker's house. Anyway, time to wrap up this rant. In conclusion, be nice to employees, not just retail ones, but other ones too. If you're gonna be a Karen, do it to people far higher up, and don't throw the little guy under the bus. And if you're currently working retail or fast food or any job that treats you like trash, know that you are better than that you deserve better, and look for an opportunity to leave. Take care of yourself, get that bag, and then get out of that place to a place that will respect you. And if you run the company, please, for the love of God, hire your smart people from within so they actually know how things run. Stop hiring all these fucking idiots from outside the company.